We have made it to episode 100 of the 40-year sim, and in this episode, we're going to be taking a look back at the first 10 seasons, first 10 of 40 of the 40-year sim. So if you have lost track of things, this is the episode to watch. So let's check it out. This is the 1984 playoff bracket. As you see, the Celtics won the finals in '84. Notable thing about the '84 playoffs is the New Jersey Nets making it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals despite being 38-44. 85 season, the Lakers beat the 76ers. Sixers had an easy path to the finals thanks to the Bucks beating the Celtics in the conference semis. Also notable is that the Mavericks faced the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals for the first time and lost in 5 to the Lakers. And so Lakers end up winning the championship there. Then we have in 86, the Celtics beat the Lakers. The 72-10 Lakers lost to the Celtics in 86. And as you see, the Dallas Mavericks took the Lakers to 7 games. It was a really close one, but the Lakers were able to prevail, but they lost to the Celtics to 6 games there. And then in 87, the Mavericks managed to beat the Lakers in 7 games. They also swept the Rockets. And then they beat the Celtics in 6. The Celtics had to get through the John Stockton's Bullets to make it to the finals, but they lost to the Mavericks in 6 games, and Charles Barkley won his first and so far only NBA championship. And I thought this was going to be the start of a possible dynasty for the Mavericks, but then they got swept by the Celtics the following year, and the Celtics basically solidified their dynasty, winning 4 championships with Larry Bird. And pretty crazy. Also, what else? Anything else? Oh, the Knicks. Knicks made it to the conference finals that year. Notable. Trailblazers in '89 won the NBA championship, beating the Pistons in 5 games. They swept the Mavericks. They beat the Lakers in 6. Also, the Kings made it to the playoffs that year. They took the Lakers to 7, losing to them in the conference semis. And then in 1990, we have the Pistons beating the Lakers in 7 games in the finals. We had the Lakers and Mavericks meeting each other in the Western Conference Finals again. The Pistons beat the Celtics and Knicks in 7 games, and then beat the Lakers in 7 games. So that was a crazy playoffs for the Pistons, and they were able to prevail. And then in 91, the Lakers swept the Bulls. They swept the Bulls in 91. Magic Johnson won his 4th ring, and we also had the Hawks. The Hawks took the Bulls 7 games in the conference finals that year, but lost. And the Knicks also took the Bulls to 7 games. So that was a tough playoffs for the Bulls. That's probably why they got swept. But then in 92, the Bulls did win their first championship. MJ won his first championship, defeating the Suns in 7 games. And the Suns were able to beat the Jazz, beat the Mavericks on their way to the finals that year. And then we had the 1993 playoffs where we saw the Bulls beat the Suns in 6 games. So that was the previous episode. So you have caught up. Now you know. Those are the results of all the playoffs of the first 10 seasons. Now we're going to go team by team. I want to go team by team and see how each team did over the course of the sim. Expansion teams first. None of these teams made the playoffs their first few years in the league. The Hornets are trending upwards, though. The Heat are trending upwards. The Magic and Timberwolves, they are kind of just circling a drain of terribleness right now. But I'm hoping that things trend upward for them soon, because I hate to see it. I don't like seeing them be this bad for this long. It's just not fun to see that. This is the Magic roster. Magic's roster over the years. You see that they had a couple point guards before settling on Pooh Richardson. Larry Johnson has been their power forward since he's been drafted. And it's been a kind of an awkward mixed match of players. And as you see, the Sim Magic have been way worse than real life Magic. And of course, they drafted Shaq in real life in '93 or '92, and they were on their way to the playoffs, whereas the Magic and the Sim are nowhere near that. The Wolves have been absolutely terrible, but I feel like they're starting to figure things out. Kenny Anderson Blue Edwards, Dennis Scott, part of the 94 squad, Christian Leitner. And I'm going to go into the 94 offseason in the next video, but I wanted to include the 94 rosters to show you where things are going. And yeah, as you see, even the Wolves have been worse than the real life counterparts. And I mean both teams were bad, but the sim Wolves are somehow even worse than the real life Wolves. Now we're seeing the Charlotte Hornets roster over the years. Rod Strickland has been the constant, their starting point guard since the beginning. They've had a lot of players filtering in and out, but it looks like they're settling on Nick Anderson at 2 guard, Derek Coleman at power forward, Olden Polynice at center. And it looks like they're starting to get better. They're trending upwards for sure. Of course, in real life, they actually made the playoffs in '93, made it to the second round. But yeah, I mean, I feel like the Hornets are on their way there. I think by this upcoming season, I think they can make it to the playoffs for the first time. They definitely have the team to do it. The Heat have been a bit more consistent. Gary Payton, ever since they drafted Gary Payton, they had Payton and Divac for a couple of years, and then but now they got Mourning at center, Payton, Steve Smith, Tony Kukoc. Yeah, I'm really excited about this Heat team. Even though in real life the Heat were a little bit better than the sim Heat, I think they should end up being as good as the real life Heat in the mid to late 90s, thanks to Gary Payton and Alonzo Mourning anchoring this team. So that's the Heat. Moving on to the Sixers, they had 8 playoff appearances out of 10 years, 2 first-round exits, 5 second-round exits, and a finals appearance. The big move for the Sixers in the sim was to trade the Moses Malone trade, which led to the Andrew Toney era, which saw a couple of second-round exits. And then Adrian Dantley joined the team in the early 90s, which led to more second-round exits. But eventually, it was time for a rebuild as those players got old. And now it's all about the future with Vin Baker. We'll see how that shakes out for them. Taking a look at the Sixers roster over the years, Mo Cheeks and Andrew Toney was their backcourt for the longest time, man. That was fun. Julius Erving, Bobby Jones, Moses Malone. That team was so good, 85 and 86. And they've had some good teams after that. They just couldn't quite get over the hump, get past second round. And now they're in a full rebuild. As you can see, the quality of players it's taken a dip these last few seasons. Now they have Vin Baker. We'll see in the next few drafts if the Sixers can pair Vin Baker with another star, and maybe they can get back into the playoffs. Who knows? But comparing the Sim Sixers with the real life Sixers, about the same, other than that 85 finals appearance in the Sim. It's funny to see how things pretty much played out the same exact way for the Sixers in real life and in the Sim. Meanwhile, the Bucks, 6 playoff appearances, first round exits. They had 2 of those, 2 second round exits, and 2 conference finals appearances. No finals appearances in the 80s and early 90s for the Bucks. And in the Moncrief era, things started off hot, but then they started missing the playoffs at the turn of the decade. But that led to a rebuild, which brought them Shaq and Penny. So I think things turned out pretty nicely for the Bucks in the long run. And that Moncrief trade with the Celtics, man, that really paid off dividends for them. And maybe they're gonna be a finals contender. Who knows? I think they're trending in that direction. Doing a deep dive into their rosters over the years, I think the trade for Jack Sikma and then signing George Gervin is what led to the demise of the Milwaukee Bucks during the Sidney Moncrief era. Too much offense, too many players that needed the ball in their hands to succeed. And but hey, it led to Shaq and Penny, so can't complain too much. Real life Bucks were definitely more successful than the Sim Bucks, but I think in the rest of the 90s, the Sim Bucks are going to be way better than the real life Bucks were. So that's cool. Speaking of teams that were better in the Sim than their real life counterparts, the Washington Bullets. They made 8 playoff appearances, 3 first round exits, 3 second round exits, 2 conference finals appearances. No finals appearances, no championships, but man, this team, man. I mean, they had some bad years in the very beginning, but after they drafted John Stockton, Xavier McDaniel, they've won over 50 games ever since, and they made a conference finals twice. And now they got Stockton, Reggie Lewis, and Len Bias. I mean, they are contenders all throughout the rest of the 90s, this team, as long as John Stockton's there. And yeah, I'm checking out the rosters. A lot of consistency here because there wasn't really much need for change because they were so good for such a long time. And now they got Len Bias, like I said, that should take the team to another level. And just look at this. The Sim Bullets were way better are way better than the real life Bullets, and that's going to continue to happen as long as John Stockton's here. It's just kind of funny to see just how much worse the Bullets were in real life, and the sim Bullets are just absolutely it's bonkers how good they are. The Bulls, little different story here. 9 playoff appearances out of 10, that's good. 6 first-round exits, that's not as good. 3 finals appearances, 2 championships. You would think that's a successful run, but as we all know, in real life they won 3 championships. But in the future, though, I think they should end up being, they should be considered the greatest team in the 90s. I mean, that's where things are going, I think, with this team. I mean, Dennis Rodman, I expect him to join the team eventually. Ron Harper too. And yeah, I mean, I tried to stay faithful to building this Bulls team the right way. George Gervin was here for a little while, and they had some success with him. But after that little era, it's just been all about replicating the real life Bulls as close as possible. Because I wanted to see it grow year by year. But yeah, the real life Bulls are way better than the Sim Bulls. I mean, the Sim Bulls have won a few championships, but they haven't been able to be as good as the real life Bulls. The Cavaliers, kind of the same story, and it's even sadder because they've only made the playoffs 4 times in this sim. 4 playoff appearances, 4 first-round exits. Yikes. I mean, some other teams had it worse, but yeah, I mean, they had some really dark years in the beginning. Then they drafted Reggie Miller and Mark Price, and things looked like they were going to start to turn out well for them. But other than a couple of playoff appearances here and there, they had that 46-36 season in 1992. Other than that, they've been very disappointing. But I'm hoping they can get better soon with Reggie Miller still there. And yeah, here's the rosters over the years. Check out all the failed attempts at making this team be good. and yeah, it's kind of sad. The real life Cavaliers were definitely much better than the sim Cavaliers, but hopefully that changes. For the rest of the 90s, maybe we'll see a different result. Celtics, 9 playoff appearances, 2 first-round exits, 2 second-round exits, 5 conference finals appearances, 4 finals appearances, 3 championships. They've been so good this sim. Won an extra championship than they did in real life. But now we're entering this period where no one wants to retire. And it was okay at first when they were making the playoffs, but in 1993 they really collapsed. And they did not own their 93 pick. The Bucks did. And that's what has led to the Shaq and Penny era. So... And as we see, they had their classic starting 5 for a number of years. Then they traded Danny Ainge for Ernest Marshall-Lonis. That was a fun little period, and Moncrief was there. But yeah, it's time for the old guys to finally retire. Sim Celtics, though, I would say the Sim Celtics were better than the real life Celtics. Obviously, the last couple of seasons, you would say the real life Celtics were better, but this Larry Bird era Celtics team won an extra championship, so really can't complain. Los Angeles Clippers, I think it's safe to say that this sim Clippers ended up being better than in real life, even though, I mean, what it all amounted to was 6 playoff appearances and 6 first-round exits. But hey, I mean, in real life, I mean, you'll see, much better than what it was in real life. So they had those early years with Bill Walton and Sam Perkins and Sam Bowie, and then things really took a turn when they traded for Moses Malone. They ended up winning 54 games in '87. Unfortunately, that was their only really good season with Moses Malone. And then they ended up tanking last season again, and they got Chris Webber. So we'll see if that leads to more success for them. And yeah, checking out the rosters in the 80s, they had a nice collection of players. In real life, a lot of these players were hurt, and that's why they were so bad in real life. As we see the comparison here, yeah, it's clear that the Clippers in the 80s in the sim ended up being much better than in real life. But and even though the early 90s Clippers are better than the real life, the sim Clippers, now they have Chris Webber. So we'll see if if things change. Hawks, 10 playoff appearances out of 10 years. but 9 first-round exits, only 1 conference finals appearance. I did not realize it was that bad for them until I broke this down. And then, so they had at first the failed attempts to build a good team around Dominique Wilkins. Finally, they settled on a nice team with Rolando Blackman and Ralph Sampson in the early 90s. That led them to the conference finals in 91. But now they're starting to go back to where they were in the beginning of the sim, which is kind of mediocre. And it feels like a rebuild is on the horizon. And yeah, you can see, those early 90s teams, they were damn good. Kevin Wills on that team as well, Mark Jackson. But I think it's time for a rebuild. And real life Hawks, I think it's safe to say they're a bit better than the Sim Hawks. Although the Sim Hawks did win 60 games that one year, and the Sim Hawks did make the conference finals. Not something that the real life Hawks could say in that same period. So interesting to see what the differences are there. Utah Jazz, one of the most interesting teams in the sim, easily. 9 playoff appearances, 5 first-round exits, 3 second-round exits, 1 conference finals appearance. The big thing about this Jazz team was the fact that they couldn't draft John Stockton, they couldn't draft Karl Malone, and yet they made the playoffs 9 out of 10 years. How'd they do it? Some good drafting, some clever trades, getting Tom Chambers, getting Michael Adams when they were able to get him. That helped them stay playoff relevant. And they've been a good team despite not having Stockton and Malone. And you can see how the roster has evolved over time. I tried to stay true to how the Jazz are. No tanking, right? Jazz don't tank. They try to rebuild while staying competitive, and that's what I tried to do with this team over the last 10 years. I feel like the Sim Jazz and the real Jazz are about the same. Obviously, the real Jazz in a couple of seasons make the finals 2 years in a row, right? 97, 98. I don't think that's going to happen in the Sim, but we'll see. Kings. Now the Kings, baby. 6 playoff appearances, 5 first-round exits, 1 second-round exit. But I feel like, it's obvious that this Kings team ended up being way, 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 way better than their real-life Sacramento Kings. And it's all because of Arvydas Sabonis, also drafting Chris Mullin and Alvin Robertson in the beginning, and Kevin Johnson. I think all of that is what has led to the Kings being as good as they are. Now, they've had a string of first-round exits, though, so the hope is that they can continue to improve upon the roster to get this team to the next level, because that's kind of where they need to go right now. They've had this starting lineup for a while. Kevin Johnson, Jeff Hornacek, Chris Mullin, Otis Thorpe, Arvydas Sabonis. This team can reliably get you 50 wins. They just can't get past the first round. What's it going to take? I'm not quite sure. But looking at the comparison, come on. Obviously the Sim Kings are way better than the real life Kings during the same period. So really exciting. The Kings basketball is really exciting, and I'm hoping that they can get even better in these next couple of seasons. So that's the Kings. The Knicks, 9 playoff appearances, 3 first-round exits, 4 second-round exits, 2 conference finals appearances. No finals appearances thus far, but I think the interesting thing, the thing that I wanted to explore with the Knicks personally, was Bernard King and Patrick Ewing. What could these two players be like together? We never knew that in real life. In this sim, they had a lot of success. They had 2 conference finals appearances, like I just said. They had a string of 50-plus win seasons. But now that Bernard King has retired, it's time for a new era. The Sprewell-Ewing era is now upon us, as we see the rosters over the years. And yeah, this was a really good team when they had Bernard King. And now we see that they have Glenn Rice on the team now, Dale Davis coming off the bench. So we'll see if this team can stay good throughout the rest of the nights. Can they make the finals, though? Can they make the finals? I don't know. But, real life Knicks, Sim Knicks, not too much difference. I would say, obviously, the Sim Knicks during the late 80s, early 90s were definitely much better. But the real life Knicks start to be really good at this point. 93, 94. So we'll see how that holds in this sim. Lakers, 10 playoff appearances, 2 first-round exits, 1 second-round exit, 7 conference finals appearances, 2 championships out of 4 finals appearances. Yeah, about the Lakers. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I don't know what happened. I mean, the Showtime Lakers only won 1 championship with Magic and Kareem. They did win another championship in 91 with Magic after Kareem retired, but definitely nowhere near as good in this sim as they were in real life. Despite having a lot of really good regular seasons, they ran up against the Mavericks a couple of times. Yeah, I really don't understand why this team couldn't be better than they were. I mean, I tried to match the team in 2K with the team in real life as closely as possible, you know. Then I started to do some interesting moves of my own, which led to their 91 championship. And yeah, I think it's safe to say that the real life Lakers were much better than the sim Lakers. But Magic Johnson hasn't retired yet, so we'll see how things go for these next couple of years for them. Dallas Mavericks, 10 playoff appearances, 3 first-round exits, 1 second-round exit, 6 conference finals appearances, 2 finals appearances, and 1 championship. Yeah. Yeah, this team was ridiculous, right? Derek Harper, Rolando Blackman, Mark Aguirre, Charles Barkley, and then James Donaldson was their center, and then they had Joe Dumars coming off the bench. And yeah, you don't have to do much more explaining than that to explain why they won the championship in '87. And yeah, this team was just they drafted Barkley in '84, then drafted Dumars in '85, and they created a monster. And they took down the Lakers a couple of times, and they won a championship, and then they lost to the Celtics in '88. In the '88 finals. So definitely much better in this sim than they were in real life, and they're still good. I mean, they're still a good team. We'll see how things continue for them, but yeah, I obviously in real life they were rebuilding at this time, and they're still a good team now. The Nets, 3 playoff appearances, 2 first round exits, 1 conference finals appearance. Yeah, the Nets haven't had much success in this sim, but to be fair, they didn't have much success in real life either. As we break it down, the Otis Birdsong era, they were able to make the conference finals in '84, the Cinderella Nets. That was a fun team, but after that, after '85, when they made the playoffs one more time, it was a string of missed playoffs for them from '86 all the way to '92. But things are trending upward for the Nets. They made the playoffs in '93. They won 48 games. Tim Hardaway is a star and a stud. So the hope is that that can remain so. That can remain the case. They got Cedric Ceballos now starting for them. Stacey Augmon should start for them soon. They got a lot of young players, I think, that could take over and continue this. Start a run. I wouldn't say continue this run because they don't have a run yet. They made 1 playoffs, but I think they can have a run of playoff appearances for the rest of the 90s. And yeah, real life Nets, sim Nets, about the same. It's kind of funny how similar these two teams were, but yeah, I mean, that's all you could say about the Nets, really. The Nuggets, 5 playoff appearances, 3 first round exits, 2 second round exits, and then not much else. The Nuggets, you know, the Alex English era was fun in its day. The thing about the Nuggets, I would say, is they're lucky drafting. I mean, they were bad in '89, but that led to Dan Marley getting 88, and that led to Dan Marley getting drafted. And then they missed the playoffs in '89. They drafted Mookie Blaylock, and then they end up with Dikembe Mutombo in the '91 draft. So this team is starting to look pretty damn nice now. Mookie Blaylock, Dan Marley, Reggie Williams, Charles Smith, Dikembe Mutombo. I feel like they're on the verge of making the playoffs, maybe making some deep playoff runs. I don't know about the finals. I think that's a little bit much, but I definitely think that they can make some deep runs. But yeah, the real life Nuggets were a bit better than the sim Nuggets, at least in the '80s. I think but I think the late '90s Nuggets in this sim is gonna be much better than real life Nuggets. So it's gonna even itself out, I think, eventually, ultimately. So that's the Nuggets. Indiana Pacers, 4 playoff appearances, 2 first-round exits, 1 second-round exit, 1 conference finals appearance. The Pacers are finally good. It took the longest time for this team to make it work. As we see here, breaking it down. I call it the uninteresting era. Before Karl Malone, they were just kind of boring, whatever. And then Karl Malone got drafted, and then I was fumbling around trying to make this team good. Then finally they drafted Mitch Richmond. I think that was in 89 or 90. I think it was 89. And now they're starting to look like a stud team. Michael Williams, Mitch Richmond, Chris Morris, Karl Malone, Benoit Benjamin. Yeah, this team is starting to be really damn good. But for a while there, they were struggling. I couldn't make it work with Joseph Petrovic, Jim Paxson, LaSalle Thompson. It was very frustrating. But now the team is good, and we're not looking back. But if you compare the team with the real-life team, not much difference, really. I mean, the Pacers maybe made 1 or 2 extra playoffs than the real-life Pacers, but the Sim Pacers right now are definitely much better than the real-life Pacers. We'll see if that ends up being true at the end, though, for the rest of the 90s. The Detroit Pistons, 10 playoff appearances, 5 first-round exits, 3 second-round exits, 2 conference finals appearances, 2 finals appearances, and 1 championship. Yeah, the Bad Boys Pistons weren't quite bad in this sim. They did win a championship in 1990, so you gotta give them that. But in real life, they made the conference finals in '87, and then in '88 they made the finals. '89 they won the finals, and then the back-to-back championship in '90, and then I think they made the conference finals in 1991 as well. So yeah, this team was kind of a failure in that regard. But I don't know. I don't know why exactly. Well, actually, I do know why. They didn't have Joe Dumars. They didn't get to draft him. They didn't have Dennis Rodman for a little while, but I ended up trading Dennis Rodman to the Pistons. And then instead of getting Mark Aguirre, they had Alex English, and Alex English did help them win a championship. So that turned out to be a good move. But yeah, overall, the real Pistons, they were the Bad Boys Pistons. We couldn't quite replicate the Bad Boys Pistons. I tried. They were able to win a championship, though, so there's that. But being a back-to-back champ is definitely cooler than having 1 championship. So I feel a little bad about that. What can you do? Houston Rockets, 8 playoff appearances, 4 first-round exits, 2 second-round exits, 2 conference finals appearances, and thus far, no finals, no championships. When this sim started, I was really excited. One of the things I wanted to explore with this sim was Hakeem with Ralph Sampson. In real life, Ralph Sampson got hurt early in his career, and I was excited to see what could these guys do. And they were able to make the conference finals in 1988, but overall, I just got the sense that they couldn't get over a hump with them together. And I became curious to see what Hakeem and Sampson can do separate, more so than what they could do apart. So or together, I mean. So yeah, now we got Hakeem playing solo with a cast of characters. But 94, it's gonna be really interesting because now they have Clyde Drexler. So I'm nervous that they're not gonna make the finals. So I traded for Clyde Drexler a year earlier than when he actually gets traded, because I want to see if Hakeem can actually make the finals in this sim. So we'll see if that shakes out. Overall, though, the real life Rockets, they did make the finals in '86, but pretty similar. These are pretty similar win losses. So yeah, I think it's about the same there. Spurs, 7 playoff appearances, 4 first-round exits, 3 second-round exits, no conference finals appearances, no finals appearances, no championships. The Spurs, is fun. The funny thing about the Spurs is the fact they were able to draft David Robinson, just like in real life. And as you would expect, David Robinson has helped them make the playoffs a number of times, but no conference finals appearances yet. And as we get further into the 90s, there's the big elephant in the room, right? Tim Duncan. Are they going to get Tim Duncan? I don't see how that's possible, because they're not going to be bad enough to get him, because David Robinson isn't going to go down with an injury in '96, because I turned injuries off. And even if injuries were on, it'd be odd if He just so happens to get the same injury in the sim and helped the Spurs tank to get Duncan. So yeah, pretty similar real life Spurs with the sim Spurs. But yeah, the big thing about the Spurs moving forward is what are the late 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, what are they going to look like if they don't get Tim Duncan? That's going to be the big storyline for them, is what this team looks like when they don't get Tim Duncan, because that's probably not going to happen. Suns, 4 playoff appearances, 1 first round exit, 1 second round exit, 2 conference finals appearances, 2 finals appearances for this team. They struggled for a long time, but they really have come along these last couple of years. They had a long rebuild and development era. Year by year, they were drafting a good player, but they couldn't put it together until 1990 when they traded for Danny Ainge. And since then, they've been pretty damn good. They haven't been able to win 50 games, but they have made 2 straight finals. So, you got to give it up to them for that. And it's going to be interesting to see how they continue to do since Danny Ainge is getting pretty old. So eventually, they're going to have to replace Danny Ainge with somebody. Who? Sam Cassell? Probably. I think Sam Cassell is going to be the point guard of the future for the Suns, so I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see if they could stay good. As far as real life Suns, Sim Suns, I think the real life Suns were a bit better, but 2 finals appearances over 1. I would take 2 over 1 any day. That said, they're not going to get Charles Barkley, so that kind of sucks for them. But Supersonics, 3 playoff appearances, 3 first round exits, and nothing else. This Sonics team during the 80s was very frustrating because they had Jack Sigma and Tom Chambers and couldn't do much with them. They were bad. They were bad during the Sigma era, and then Sigma got traded to the Bucks, and then they had Dale Ellis on the team. I tried replicating their moves like they did in real life, but Jesus, they sucked. Finally, I felt like it was necessary to add Sean Kemp to this team, and that has proven to be a good thing for them because they've been winning over 40 games ever since, made a couple of playoff appearances, and I think this team could be really damn good. Now they have Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf starting at point guard, Petrovic, McKee, Sean Kemp, Rick Smits. This team can start to be a contender for the rest of the 90s based on who they have right now. But they struggled for quite some time, and I would say yes, the real life Sonics were better than the Sim Sonics. They had Gary Payton and Sean Kemp in the early 90s. But Abdul-Rauf and Sean Kemp, that could be fun too. I'm looking forward to seeing what that gets us. Are the Sonics going to make the finals like they did in real life? We'll see. Trailblazers, 9 playoff appearances, 3 first-round exits, 4 second-round exits, 2 conference finals appearances, 1 championship. Now, in real life, they made 2 finals, but I think you would take 1 championship over 2 finals appearances, right? And here's how it shook out. They missed the playoffs that one time, but overall, they've been pretty damn consistent during the Clyde Drexler era. But he had 1 year left in his contract, and I'll go over this more in the next video. But it was time to move on from Clyde Drexler, mostly to try to get Hakeem a championship. They were college buddies, and Clyde wanted to. He was demanding a trade. He wanted to get his buddy a championship. So we'll see if that happens. Meanwhile, the Blazers, I don't want them to do a complete rebuild. I want to see if they can stay competitive and eventually change this roster, get younger players in this roster while staying competitive. But yeah, as far as real life Blazers versus Sim Blazers, they're about the same. But I would take the Sim Blazers because they won a championship. It's as simple as that. You would take that any day. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this Trailblazers team shakes out for the rest of the 90s. Warriors, 3 playoff appearances, 2 first-round exits, 1 second-round exit. Not much success for the Warriors in this sim. And some of that was my fault. I think, and I'll point this out when we look at the rosters. But yeah. The Purvis Short, Joe Barry Carroll era didn't lead to much. They had one 44-38 season, but other than that, once the Len Bias era came around, they were just hovering around 500. They just couldn't get over the hump. And then Len Bias got tired of the mediocrity and demanded a trade, and now they are rebuilding. And we'll see what this rebuild gets them. The roster over the years, I think the big blunder on my part, and I'm sorry about this, Warriors fans, but Sleepy Floyd. I traded away Sleepy Floyd, and I thought John Lucas could be a good point guard for them, but that turned out to be not that good. I don't know. I traded Sleepy Floyd to the Knicks and without having a real plan for the Warriors, so I'm sorry about that. Usually there's good reasons for me to make those trades. But that being said, other than a 55-27 season, I feel like the real-life Warriors, Sim Warriors, not much difference. A couple of second-round appearances for the real-life Warriors, but other than that, about the same. In the next video, we got Penny and Shaq together in this sim. It's happening. We got Clyde Drexler and Hakeem on the Rockets. That's going to be fun as hell. And of course, we got Michael Jordan. He has not retired. Michael Jordan is still on this team, on the Bulls, in this sim. That's going to be exciting. I hope you are looking forward to that. Thank you very much for watching this special 100th episode. A bit dry, a lot of screenshots. If you made it through this far, I appreciate it. If this episode only has 10 views, I understand. It wasn't that exciting. But thanks you very much for watching, and it's been a fun 100 episodes. Looking forward to doing many more episodes as we get through the remaining 30 years in the sim. Have a good night, good day, good afternoon.